Hey there, everybody. Cathy McLeish back here again with Alcoholism Unpacked, just trying to share a little bit of knowledge, maybe even wisdom. I've been in recovery for over 30 years, and I got sober when I was 27. Happy 4th of July. So today is the 4th of July. You can watch this video whenever, but I'm thinking about the holidays, and I'm thinking about how the holidays affect the alcoholic, and the alcoholic's thinking about the holidays. So when I was going to get sober, I was thinking, what will I do? I will never be able to drink again. No drinking at the lake. No drinking on 4th of July, on New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve. Oh my gosh, to an alcoholic, that is unimaginable. To get sober and not be able to go through any of those holidays with alcohol. I couldn't even comprehend what that would be like. But I was never thinking it was going to be positive. And that's the interesting thing about the practicing alcoholic, at least this practicing alcoholic. I had this world, and it had gotten so small. And yet I had these ideas and this perspective that was so big and so sure of itself. And I was, for the most part, so wrong. I got into sobriety and I went through holidays. In fact, I got sober in March. So my 4th of July, my first 4th of July was probably one of the first holidays that I went through sober. And of course, I was scared. I thought I couldn't even do it. And alcohol, to the alcoholic, when they're practicing, it is everything. But when they're not practicing, when they're not drinking, they may still think it's going to be everything and that it's so important and that they can't get through the holidays without it. But as a sober alcoholic, I found out that most of that was in my head. That I was the one that was so absorbed in the alcoholic scene and that drinking was such a big part of the fun and the festivities. And yet, in reality, it was not that way at all. Now, granted, still, the world loves alcohol, and everybody does think of that as part of the party, part of the celebration, part of the holiday season, all the way around. That is the way we celebrate in this country. And yet, that is not the way that we have true fun, true interaction with other people, with our family, with our friends. You know, if I was ever to doubt that, I would just have to look back at pictures and videos of what it was like when I was drinking. And I had this idea in my head about all these good conversations I had and these relationships that I had with these people, and I'd run into them at a wedding reception or whatever, high school reunion, and things would be so good in my memory. But in reality, if I ever heard from a third person how that same evening went or how my conversation went, it was a whole nother story. So the alcoholic, when we're practicing, has this one idea of how the world is going and how their life is and how their relationships are. And in reality, it is not as good as we think. Now, if we want to be bold, if we want to really test this theory, if you think I'm full of shit, you can ask somebody. You can ask somebody to film you, video you on an evening when you're drinking, maybe a little too much, and then have the nerve, have the courage to play that back and look at yourself through the lens of reality. Because what we think is going on is nowhere near the reality of what is actually going on when we have moved into alcoholic drinking. So when I think back to my 4th of July's when I was drinking, I can't remember most of them. I can remember little bits and pieces here and there, being in the wrong place, with the wrong people, doing the wrong things. I can remember one time being on the roof of a 3-story home because somebody thought that would be a great idea to get out on the roof and watch the fireworks from the rooftop. And I survived, but I remember very little bit about those times where I took these risks and did these things because it was going to be so much fun. And in reality, I don't even remember it. Now, this past weekend, we had a 4th of July party at our home, and there was no alcohol. And the way that we work with myself and my husband, and we're both in recovery over 30 years, the way that we do it is if somebody drinks normally, if they're a normal, healthy drinker or person that knows how to have fun and has their limits, we will allow them to bring alcohol to our home. And when they leave, they take it with them. And that is something that we've come to terms with over the years. In early sobriety, that was not a good idea for me because I didn't need to have alcohol within reach as a recovering alcoholic. I just had a lot more respect for my sobriety than to try and do that. So traditionally, we have a 4th of July get together at our home, and it's somewhere around the 4th of July, and it always depends on when our neighbor has their fabulous fireworks, because he does have the most amazing fireworks, and he's a really cool guy and just says, hey, invite whoever you want. The more people that enjoy these fireworks, the better I feel about putting them off. So we had this 4th of July get together, probably 30 people through the night, and there was no alcohol. And it was a lot of fun. And you might say, yeah, because you're old. But you know what? I got sober when I was in my late 20s. So I've been doing holidays through the 30s, through my 40s, through my 50s. That's as far as we need to go. But anyways, I have had a new and different kind of fun in a sober life that I never thought was available when I was drinking. And so you can believe this or not, but the idea is test it. Test it out and see how you feel about going through a holiday without alcohol. Because alcohol for me was a crutch. And it was a crutch to allow me to feel better about myself when I was interacting with other people, doing things in places that I maybe wasn't comfortable with. And I never really grew and nurtured the skills as an adult that I needed to function in all of these different social activities as a normal, healthy woman. And so I cheated myself. I cheated myself out of so much authenticity, and I didn't even know it. So was it easy the first time? Was it easy the first year? Maybe not, but it started to pay off immediately. And today I can walk into a room, I can walk into a get-together, and I may still be nervous or uncomfortable at the beginning. I mean, I'm only human, but eventually I am who I am no matter what circle I am in. And that is such a new and different feeling for the practicing alcoholic, because as a practicing alcoholic, I was a chameleon. I would be who I needed to be in the different places that I was at, and mostly for your benefit, not mine. So on this 4th of July, we had this get together. It was great. One of my girlfriends even came up to me and said a few days later, I was at your get together and I was so at peace. It was so fun. It was so comfortable. I didn't have to worry about anything. And then I left your get together and I went to another function that was all about alcohol. And everybody was acting stupid. They were already drunk, and it wasn't even late in the evening. The kids were running around. Nobody was paying attention, and it was such a different atmosphere. So looking from the outside in, those are two different perspectives. And my message is, and what I have learned in my own recovery, is my perspective as a practicing alcoholic was skewed. The way that I was acting, the way that I was functioning in all of these holidays was so detrimental to myself and to the people that I cared about, that I was saying, I'm a part of this family. I am the spouse of this guy, and we are having fun, putting on this party, doing this function, going to this get-together. And the reality was, it was a very painstaking time in my life. And I wasn't the only one paying the price for the choices that I was making. And years were going by where I wasn't really participating. I was just on the outside looking in, trying to fit, trying to feel okay, and I really wasn't a part of anything. So I'm very grateful today that I stopped cheating myself. I'm grateful that I had the courage to take somebody else's advice. Believe me, I never came to any of this on my own. It was thinking outside of my own that got me to a place where I was willing to try something new. So if you hear this and any of it registers, if you're even curious and you want to prove me wrong, then try a holiday, try a weekend, try any period that you are used to drinking all the way through. Try it sober and see how you feel. See what you think about the sober perspective of the very same activity that you've always done drinking. Cathy McLeish, thanks for listening. Please subscribe, come back, and learn a little bit more about the disease of alcoholism from the perspective of the recovering person, the drinking person, and how we might take that knowledge out into the world and raise some awareness and snuff out some of the ignorance about the disease of alcoholism.